Good day. I am Mirielle Abiera under the subject Ed 305 Assessment in Learning 2 on the schedule 5:30 to 8:30 Friday. In this video, I will be discussing on the topic legal mandates, which is under Chapter 5 Assessment for Students with Exceptional Needs. Students with disabilities and special needs may need individually planned and systematically delivered teaching techniques. Special education programs work to help individuals develop not only their academic skills but also the personal skills that help them become self-sufficient members of the community. Special education programs became obligatory in 1975 to prevent discrimination by public educational institutions against individuals with disabilities. The National Center for Education Statistics report that as of 2013, approximately 13% of all students in public schools were receiving special education services. Here are the examples of the legal mandates on students with exceptionalities. Number 1, Education for All Handicapped Children Act. Passed by Congress in 1975, this was the first special education law directed at students with physical and mental disabilities. The law stated that public schools must provide children with special needs with the same opportunities for education as other children. It also required any public school that received federal funds to provide one free meal a day for these children. The mission of this act was to make special education services accessible to children who require them, maintain fair and appropriate services for disabled students, institute systematic evaluation requirements for special education, and endow federal resources to public schools for the education of disabled students. The second example is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or Abiera, was created in 1990 and is a modification of the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. This law ensures that special needs students received appropriate free public education in the least restrictive environment necessary to meet those students' needs. It helps students receive the extra assistance they need, but also them to participate in the same activities as children without special needs whenever possible. The third one is No Child Left Behind. In 2001, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, commonly known as the No Child Left Behind Act, called for schools to be accountable for academic performance of all students, whether or not they had disabilities. The Act requires schools in every state to develop routine assessments of students' academic skills. While it does not stipulate that these assessments meet a national standard, the law does oblige each state to come up with its own criteria for evaluation. No Child Left Behind provides incentives for schools to demonstrate progress in students with special needs. It also allows for students to seek alternative options if schools are not meeting their academic, social, or emotional needs. The fourth example is the individualized education programs. The idea maintains that parents and teachers of children who qualify for special education must develop an individualized education program or IEP that helps establish specific education for a child's explicit needs. This requires caregivers to meet initially to determine a child's eligibility for an IEP and to come together annually to develop and assess the educational plan. The student's educational strategy must be designated in writing and should include an evaluation and description of the current academic status, measurable goals and objectives, designation of an instructional setting and placement within that setting, and transition services for children aged 16 or older. An IEP gives parents the right to dispute any issues with the school district through a neutral third party. And the last example, students with disabilities and post-secondary school. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 forbid discrimination in schools based on disability. This applies to colleges and universities as well as elementary, middle, and high schools. Many students with special needs go on to study at the post-secondary level, but the laws are slightly different for post-secondary schools. The law does not require post-secondary schools to provide a free, appropriate public education to students, but it does oblige schools to offer suitable academic adjustments and accessible housing to students with disabilities. Whether you're a student with disabilities or you're looking to teach children with disabilities, it's important to know special education laws. These laws preserve the rights of students and their families and help integrate students with special needs into society without segregating them. Although the laws differ slightly from state to state, the act passed by Congress helped to standardize the treatment of students with special needs across the country.